June 2026. A 40-year-old man stands in the center circle of a World Cup, and somewhere, someone is writing the same sentence they have been writing about him for 20 years. Too small, too weak, too slow, and too old. He's finished. He's here for the farewell tour. The legs are gone. We've heard this before. We've heard it about this exact player at every stage of his career. And every time, the call was wrong. So tonight, we go back to the monitor, we look at the evidence, and we review the case of Luka Modric. This is VAR replay. Most great players are easy to explain. The fast ones beat you with speed. The strong ones bully you. The scorers give you a number, and the number does the talking. Modric gives you almost nothing the eye is trained to reward. No explosive pace, no obvious power, and for most of his career, not many goals. On the scouting card, the obvious boxes looked ordinary. Height, strength, pace, and goals. Nothing screamed superstar, which is exactly why the world kept getting him wrong. Because the thing that made him elite was never on the form. Decision, speed. They measured his body. They never measured his mind. Let's review the first call. Zadar, Croatia, 1985. Modric's childhood was not shaped by a perfect academy pathway. It was shaped by war, displacement, and a world where tomorrow did not feel guaranteed. Football was not just a career plan, it was a way out. But when his talent started to show, the doubt arrived with it. Too small, too light, and not built for midfield. Not built for the battles everyone assumed midfield was about. That was the first bias in the case. A tall player looks ready. A quick player looks dangerous. A strong player looks made for the game. Modric looked like none of those things, so people decided he was missing something. But strength is not only what you can see. His strength was balance, timing, the first touch that removed pressure before pressure fully arrived. Most players receive the ball, then ask the question, where is the defender? Where is my teammate? Where is the space? Modric asked early. By the time the ball reached him, the answer was loaded. At Dinamo Zagreb, the small player became the center of the system. The one opponents tried to press, then could not catch. The one who made a team move through him. Call one, too small to matter. Overturned. Then came Tottenham, and a new version of the same doubt. The Premier League was supposed to expose him. Faster, stronger, and more direct. Surely this was not the place for a player like him. But Modric did not survive England by becoming more English. He survived by changing the speed of the game around him. Receive under pressure. Open the body. Turn away before the challenge lands. Link midfield to attack. And make the pass that lets the next player play faster. The defender thinks he is arriving on time, but he is arriving at yesterday's picture. Modric has already moved the game somewhere else. By the time he left Tottenham, he was not just a promising Croatian midfielder. He was one of the most admired midfielders in England. Call 2. He can't survive the Premier League. Overturned. But England was only the warm-up. The next call nearly stuck. In 2012, Luka Modric joined Real Madrid. For most players, that is the summit. At Madrid, it is also the courtroom. He arrived late in the window. New country, new language, and new system. A dressing room full of superstars. A club that does not do patience. And at first, he did not look like the marketing version of a Galactico. Not a goal machine. Not instantly untouchable. So, the verdict came fast. In a Marca poll, Modric was voted the worst signing of the season. Think about that. You climb to the biggest club in the world, and within months, the public files you under mistake. Madrid does not just test your ability, it tests whether judgment changes you. Modric had two options. Let the label become the story. Or change the replay. Old Trafford 2013. Champions League knockout tie. Real Madrid against Manchester United. Modric starts on the bench. Madrid were behind in the tie. Nani was sent off. Modric came on against 10 men, which sounds like the problem had been solved. But an advantage is not a goal. Someone still has to open the door. The ball drops to him 20-odd yards out. One touch shifts it away from the man stepping out. Not a sprint, not power, just half a yard, created by the speed of the idea. Then the strike. Curling away from the keeper, in off the far post, the game changes. The tie changes. Ronaldo scores moments later. Madrid go through. The player being called a flop has just decided a Champions League knockout tie at one of football's most famous grounds. Before Old Trafford, the question was, does he belong here? After Old Trafford, it became, what if Madrid had not bought a mistake? What if they had bought the next decade of their midfield? Call 3. Worst signing of the season. Overturned. Now we get to the machine. How does a man, without elite pace or obvious power, control the most talent-stacked matches on earth? It starts before he touches the ball. As the pass travels, Modric scans. Left shoulder, right shoulder, pressure, teammate, space, and angle. He is building a live map before the ball arrives. So when the defender sees a chance to press, Modric sees 3 exits. Back to reset, sideways to switch, and forward to break the line. The ball arrives, and he receives on the half-turn. His body is already pointed toward the escape route. The presser lunges into the space Modric has just left. That is why he looks calm. Not because the pressure is low, because the decision was early. And when the decision is early, the game appears slower. This is why numbers can struggle to hold him. His greatness is often the pass before the pass, the touch that changes the angle, the movement that pulls one opponent out, the release that creates the chance to create the chance. The cleanest example came in 2014. Champions League final. Madrid losing to Atletico, deep into stoppage time, seconds from defeat. Modric stands over a corner on the right. The delivery comes in. Sergio Ramos rises. Header. Goal. Madrid survive, force extra time, win 4-1, and claim La Decima, the 10th European Cup the club had chased for 12 years. Modric's name is not on the score sheet for that goal, which is the whole point. Some players define history by finishing the move. Modric kept defining it by making the move possible. Then came the midfield that became a dynasty. Casemiro, Kroos, and Modric. Casemiro protected, Kroos controlled, and Modric accelerated, escaped, connected, disrupted. Champions League after Champions League. That triangle became the engine, and Modric was never the passenger. Then came 2018, the year a respected midfielder became football history, with Real Madrid, another Champions League. But the emotional weight came with Croatia. Croatia were not supposed to reach a World Cup final. Smaller nation, smaller pool, and giants in the way. And Modric carried them through the tournament, not by overpowering it, by always being available, always demanding the ball, always giving an exhausted team a way to breathe. Extra time, penalties, and pressure. Again and again, he gave Croatia structure when the match became chaos. They reached the final. They lost it. But Modric left with the golden ball, the tournament's best player. Then came the call that had stood for 10 straight years. The Ballon d'Or belonged to Lionel Messi or Cristiano Ronaldo. That was the law of the era. Modric broke it. Not with 60 goals. Not with the obvious metrics that usually win the argument. He won it with control, leadership, Champions League dominance, and a World Cup run that turned a small nation's belief into a global story. Ballon d'Or. The best FIFA men's player. UEFA Men's Player of the Year. The kid called too small. The midfielder doubted in England. The man voted Madrid's worst signing. Officially, the best player alive. Call 4. That award isn't his to win. Overturned. You would think that settles it. It did not. One doubt kept returning. He's too old now. The legs are gone. Madrid have to move on. This has to be the end. The headline came back in 2020, then 2022, then 2024, then again. And every season, Modric found another way to matter. Here is the secret of his longevity. Pace fades, power fades, recovery fades. But decision speed does not age the same way. Seeing the game half a second early can survive long after the first step slows down. People waited for his body to decline because they thought his body was the story. But his body was never the main weapon. His mind was. He left Real Madrid in 2025 after 13 seasons, 597 appearances, 43 goals, 95 assists, 28 trophies, and 6 Champions League titles. the most decorated player in the club's history.